Come and knock on our door, the wind seemed to whisper through the palm fronds. In apartment 201, the arrangement was unconventional, scandalous to some, but a sanctuary to the three souls who called it home. There were the kisses that were hers, the laughter that was hers, and the dreams that were his. Janet Wood, the sensible florist with a heart like a rosebud waiting to bloom. Cindy Snow, the clumsy, golden-hearted secretary who saw the world through a lens of pure innocence. And Jack Tripper, a chef in training with a quick wit and a soul that hungered for more than just culinary perfection. They were a triad of friendship, a lovable space that needed a face. But in the city of angels, even the most beautiful arrangements are subject to the storms of human emotion. Chapter 1. The Golden Hour at the Regal Beagle. The Regal Beagle was more than a pub. It was a sanctuary for the weary and a stage for the hopeful. On this particular Tuesday, the dim amber lighting caught the swirling smoke of a dozen conversations. Jack Tripper leaned against the mahogany bar, his eyes tracing the rim of his beer mug. Beside him, Larry Dallas, a man whose wardrobe consisted entirely of leisure suits and overconfidence, was scanning the room like a hawk looking for a field mouse. "Hey, you know it's a real friendly place you got here," Larry remarked to the bartender, a man whose weary eyes suggested he had seen everything and forgiven none of it. "Oh yeah," Jack chimed in, adjusting his collar. "I'm glad we stopped in. It beats sitting at home listening to Cindy try to balance her checkbook. It sounds like a construction site in there." Larry wasn't listening. His gaze had locked onto a woman at the far end of the bar. She was a vision of 70s glamour. Blonde hair cascading down her neck in silken waves, wearing a peekaboo sweater that left just enough to the imagination to be dangerous. "Jack, check out the little number parked at the bar," Larry whispered, his voice thick with a mix of awe and lust. Jack followed Larry's gaze. He felt a jolt of appreciation, purely aesthetic, he told himself, but his survival instinct, honed by years of near misses, spiked. "Yeah," Jack muttered. "And she's also got a mean-looking boyfriend with a temper that won't quit. You should have seen what he did to the bartender 5 minutes ago." "Don't do that," Larry warned. "Do what?" "Look at my girl. She's not your girl, Larry. She's currently the property of that mountain of a man who looks like he eats tractor tires for breakfast." But Larry, ever the optimist, didn't listen. He moved toward her. Jack, bound by a misplaced sense of loyalty, followed. The mountain of a man was Max. He was built like a brick wall and possessed the social graces of a cornered badger. When Jack accidentally made eye contact, Max's face darkened to the color of an overripe plum. "You're doing it again," Max growled, his voice a low vibration that Jack felt in his molars. "Sir, excuse me," Jack said, raising his hands in a gesture of peace. Observing the architecture of the room, Max didn't care about architecture. He only cared about the blonde woman April and his perceived ownership of her. April, however, looked at Jack with a mix of pity and sudden interest. She saw the kindness in his eyes, a sharp contrast to the suffocating possessiveness of the man beside her. "I'm getting a little tired of both of you," Max barked. Jack grabbed Larry by the arm. "That's good. We were just leaving. Bye. Oh, by the way, do you happen to know where the little boy's room is?" Max pointed a finger that looked like a summer sausage toward the left. "Next to the little girl's room. Get out before I put you in one of them permanently." Chapter 2. The Shadow of Max. Back at apartment 201, the atmosphere was far from the usual light-hearted banter. Jack was pacing the living room, his hands trembling slightly as he recounted the encounter to Janet and Cindy. "He's a psycho, Janet," Jack insisted. "A literal, breathing, bicep-flexing psycho." Janet, ever the voice of reason, was trimming a bouquet of carnations. "Jack, you're overreacting. You meet guys like that every week at the Beagle. You have a talent for attracting the wrong kind of attention." "I was just being friendly," Jack protested. "And then she showed up here." "Who?" Cindy asked, looking up from a pile of crumpled bank statements. "April," a voice called from the doorway. They all turned. April was standing there, looking ethereal and deeply troubled. She had followed the bartender's directions and Jack's trail of fear straight to their door. "I've come over to apologize for Max's behavior," she said softly. "I'm April." Jack felt a surge of adrenaline. "April. Well, you're a lovely month, especially the way you overflow into May." "Jack, stop it," Janet warned. April walked into the room, her presence filling the small space with the scent of expensive perfume and impending doom. "I told Max what you said about controlling his temper. He hit the bartender." Jack went pale. "He hit the bartender? Because of me?" "Because of the way you looked at me," April said, her voice dropping to a whisper. "He's coming here, Jack. He plans on being at the Beagle every night until he catches you, and he knows you live around here." "Well, that doesn't scare me one bit," Jack lied, his voice cracking. "I've got enough beer in the fridge to last a month. I'll just hibernate." Suddenly, a thunderous boom echoed through the hallway. It wasn't a knock, it was an assault. "Open up in there, it's Max." Chapter 3. The Great Escape. The apartment became a blur of motion. Janet pushed April toward the kitchen. Cindy tried to hide behind a floor lamp. Jack, paralyzed for a second, considered jumping off the balcony before realizing they were only on the second floor and Max would likely catch him in midair. "Quick, hide," Janet hissed. "Not you, Cindy," Jack yelled as Cindy tried to climb into the linen closet. "April, get in the kitchen." Jack opened the door just as Max was about to kick it off its hinges. "Hey, Max, what's going on? How you doing? What's happening?" Jack's voice was an octave higher than usual. Max pushed past him, his eyes scanning the room like a thermal imager. "Where is she?" "You know who, April." "Max, listen," Jack said, trying to sound suave while his knees knocked together. "With two beautiful girls like this that I'm living with, what would I want with a third?" Janet and Cindy nodded vigorously. "Yeah, what would Jack want with another girl?" Janet added, "Since he can't get anywhere with either one of us." Max wasn't buying it. He stormed toward the kitchen. "What's in there?" "In there? Oh, that's a kitchen. Your basic kitchen. Stove, refrigerator, table, cups, saucers. You know, the places where food happens." As Max searched the apartment, April managed to slip out the back through the service entrance, but the damage was done. "I'm going to find you, Jackie, and when I do, I'm going to turn you into a what?" "A what?" "A memory." Chapter 4. The Desperate Measure. For 3 days, Jack Tripper was a prisoner in his own home. He called into the restaurant where he worked, claiming a 2-4 hour flu that seemed to have no end. He jumped at the sound of the toaster. He watched the street from behind the curtains like a fugitive. Larry Dallas arrived on the 3rd day, looking uncharacteristically somber. "Jack, you look terrible," Larry said, helping himself to a piece of cold toast. "I haven't been able to eat. I haven't been able to sleep. That guy is out there, Larry. He's across the street right now. Just standing, waiting." "You need to get out of town," Larry suggested. "I can't go on running forever," Jack moaned, burying his face in his hands. "I'd be better off dead." Larry paused, a slow, predatory grin spreading across his face. "Don't say that. Actually, maybe that's not such a bad idea." "What? My death?" "Not your actual death, Jack. Your professional death. A performance. We hold a funeral." Jack looked at him, horror dawning. "A funeral? Larry, that's insane, even for you. Think about it. If Max thinks you're dead, he stops hunting you. He feels guilty. He leaves April alone. He moves on to some other poor sucker. You stay dead for a week, then you resurrect after he left town. It's foolproof." Chapter 5. Shady Hills. The Shady Hills funeral home was a place of heavy velvet curtains and the cloying scent of lilies. Larry had used a connection, a friend who owed him a favor, to secure a viewing room for a few hours. Janet and Cindy were dressed in black, their eyes red from crying, mostly from the onions Larry had forced them to sniff. Jack, meanwhile, was tucked into a plush, satin-lined casket, wearing his best suit. "I can't do this, Larry," Jack whispered from the coffin. "It's cramped, and I'm allergic to these flowers." "Stay down," Larry hissed. "Max is in the parking lot." I saw his car. This thing has a sunroof, Jack muttered, feeling the breeze from the open lid. It's like a Japanese import. Shut up, Jack. Someone's coming. The door creaked open. Oh, Jack, why you? You were so young, so alive, Furley wailed, leaning over the casket. Jack couldn't help it. The pollen from the lilies tickled his nose. A sneeze, violent and undeniable, erupted from the corpse.